Let's dive into something you've probably seen before, but maybe never really understood. We're going to talk about the surprising connection between being really, really smart and choosing to be alone. It's a fascinating bit of psychology, for sure. I mean, have you ever noticed that the most brilliant, creative people you know, they're often the ones who skip the big parties or seem to just vanish from social events? It kind of makes you wonder, right? Why would they actively choose solitude? It's a pattern that's so easy to get wrong. So today, we're going to unpack the real psychology behind that choice. And see, this is where we usually miss the point. We tend to label this behavior as rude, maybe a little arrogant, or just plain antisocial. But what's actually going on inside their head is completely different. They're chasing clarity, focus, and creativity. And that's where we're headed now. We're going to leave the common opinions behind and look at what the science of the mind tells us is really happening. So the first big reason isn't about avoiding people at all. Nope, it's actually about creating the right kind of mental space, a space you need for a very powerful kind of thinking. And that's what we call deep thinking. Now, this isn't just about being quick with a comeback. It's the heavy lifting, it's about connecting the dots nobody else sees, exploring really complex ideas, and seeing the whole big picture. It's all about depth, not just speed. You see, when you're alone, your mind can finally get to work. Psychologists have found that our brains actually need a low stimulation zone to do this kind of heavy processing. In that quiet, thoughts get clearer, creativity isn't drowned out by all the noise, and you can actually tackle complex problems way more effectively. And that brings us to our second point. If deep thinking needs a quiet mental space, well, it makes perfect sense that highly intelligent people would be super protective of their mental energy. And here's what drains that energy. You know what I'm talking about, right? The small talk, the drama, the endless emotional noise. For a mind that's wired to find patterns and meaning, that stuff is absolutely exhausting. It's like trying to run a super complex program on a really slow computer. So let's be really clear here. This preference for being alone has nothing to do with being shy or insecure. It's a strategy. It's about protecting a limited resource, their mental energy, for the things that actually matter to them. It all comes down to something called selective socialization. It's not about having tons of friends. It's about having real connections. They will almost always pick one deep, meaningful conversation over 10 shallow ones. It is all about quality over quantity. Now, this time alone also helps grow a really powerful internal trait, a kind of confidence that just doesn't depend on what the outside world thinks. And here's how it works. It's a pretty simple process, actually. Solitude gives you the space you need for reflection. That reflection leads to a much deeper understanding of your own emotions, your mistakes, your motivations. And that self-awareness, it builds this rock-solid independence and confidence that doesn't need anyone else's approval to stay strong. And that's exactly why they don't need 100 likes on social media. Their sense of self is built from the inside out. Solitude is the workshop where they forge that strength. This brings us to what might be the single most important idea in this whole conversation. We have to separate two words that we always mix up, being alone and being lonely. See, loneliness is a negative thing. It's painful. It's a feeling of being unwanted, an emptiness. But solitude? That's a positive state that you choose. It's about being in control, feeling peaceful, and even fulfilled. They are completely, fundamentally different things. So let's circle all the way back to where we started. That person you know, the one who leaves the party early or spends their weekends buried in a book instead of out socializing. After everything we've just talked about, we know now that choice isn't some kind of weakness. No, it's actually a powerful tool they use to find mental clarity in a very, very noisy world. It's a deliberate strategy to protect the deep focus they need for creativity and insight. And when you get right down to it, it's a sign of a mind that's comfortable with itself. It's a sign of intelligence at work. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. In our world of constant pings and notifications and noise, when was the last time you actually chose silence? Not because you were lonely, but as a deliberate space for yourself. Something to think about.